What's going on, guys? Noah Sanford here. Today we are going to be installing the brand new Bass Boat Technologies bow hood mount for your bow mounted graphs. So really cool mount we got here from Bass Boat Technologies, guys. I'm going to show you a lot of the features as we get into the video. I'm going to show you the whole installation process. It's going to be pretty straightforward. The cool thing about this mount, though, that you guys are going to see, they call this the hood mount because this whole back plate actually opens up like a hinge like this once you have it mounted on there. What that allows you to do, unlike any other mounting solution on the market, is have your plate down in there mounted, but you can actually access your wires by this folding up while it's on there. So it gives you access to all your wires and electronics without having to take anything off other than loosening a couple screws. So really cool design here from Bass Boat Technologies. Let's jump right into the installation. First step's gonna be pretty straightforward, guys. You're either gonna have the factory mount plate here with nothing on it, you're gonna have the factory plate with your screen flush mounted, or you're gonna have a setup like mine where you have this plate here and your graph mounted onto the plate. So whatever you got going here, you gotta take this stuff off, right? So what I'm gonna do in my case, take these knobs off, take my screen off, obviously unhook the wires from the screen in the back, and then take this plate off by just unscrewing those couple screws going around. So let's do that right now. All right, guys, so as you can see, the actual black box for my Garmin unit was mounted right up underneath that silver aluminum plate that was here. So what we're gonna do is actually relocate this black box back to one of my compartments. So this step probably isn't gonna be happening for most of you guys. You know, right now you'd probably be just going in to put your new plate and rerunning your wires, but since I have to relocate my black box, it doesn't really apply to anyone. I'm just gonna go ahead and do that real quick, put it in one of my other compartments, run the wires, and then I'll come back to you guys once we are at the point to where we're putting the new mount and running the wires through. All right, so basically what we're doing on this Ranger, guys, there is no access in either of the tubes where the existing wires are going on either side. So what we decided is we're just gonna run the wires for this black box through one of these rod tubes. It'll be way easier than trying to cut into the foam here, making a new tube for these new wires to go down the side panel of this boat. What we're gonna do, or what we already did, you can see right here, made two little holes down there, and now we're gonna run our wires through the rod box, and where they're gonna end up is just right down here, and then we're gonna mount that black box right down in there where you see it. So that's what we're doing. It's gonna be way easier, save us literally hours of work. And then the rod or the black box is just gonna be stored down there in the very back of the tackle compartment. So pretty smart. All right, so now what we're gonna do, now that we've drilled out those holes through those rod tubes, take our network for the black box, put it down, run it through there. We're gonna take this guy, this is the power to the black box. We're gonna take it, run it down through there. And then finally, we're gonna take our network cable right here, run it down through that tube. And then we're gonna have all the female wires coming up the top here to plug in, or I guess those would be the male wires to plug into the female port on the screen. So I'm gonna go ahead, there's not really a way to film this, but basically I just explained it. We're gonna take the wires for the black box, run them down through there, through that rod tube, and they're gonna end up right here. And then I'll show you guys once I get all three wires down here, where I'm gonna plug them into the black box. Now you can see we've got all three wires, 1, 2, 3, coming through here. So all we're gonna do is take our black box, put a screw or two, probably just one through each corner. This thing isn't really gonna move, so just put one little screw through here, one little screw through the corner, get it up there in the top right corner and plug our wires in. Got all three, the XDCR, network, and power plugged in. We're gonna put this baby in the corner, put a few screws in it, make it nice and stable, and then we'll start working on our front end. So when I'm doing a project like this or doing anything with wires or electronically related, before I screw everything down and finalize everything, I always like to do a quick electronic test and make sure that everything's actually working before you go ahead and screw everything down, because it's happened to me before with certain projects And I'm sure it's happened to most of you. You get too excited doing the actual work, you get everything on, and then you realize you wire something incorrectly, and then you got to redo everything from step one. So I like to plug in my wires, and sure enough, we got power. So I always like to make sure before I do something like this, check your connections, make sure everything turns on, because the last thing you want to do is get everything secured and fastened down here and then go to turn on your unit and realize you forgot a plug. Another really nice and convenient thing that Bass Boat Technologies does is when they send you these units, they send you all of the mounting hardware, so you don't have to worry about stripping one of your old screws, having one of your old pieces of hardware break and not knowing what to do. They send you all of the new mounting hardware, and it's all labeled too, so you can see everything is labeled so you know what goes where and how to use it. Another cool thing with the Bass Boat Technology, they send you the mounting hardware to either through bolt it with your bolt and nut here, or to just use these thick fiberglass screws that just stick into the fiberglass. So since I'm on Lake Mead and there's some pretty dang rough water sometimes, you'll get caught out there in 3, 4, 5 foot waves, 40+ mile-an-hour winds, and that bow is slapping up there. Even though those fiberglass screws will probably hold, I don't even want to have to worry about it, so I'm going to go ahead and use the option of through bolting it. So one of the really cool and unique features of this Bass Boat Technology bow mount that really nobody else on the market has is this right here. The reason why they call it the hood mount, right there. This thing opens up just like a hood, and what that does is when this is mounted on your bow like so, you can mount this thing down there, and if you ever have an electrical problem, or more likely, if you go to switch out your graphs, let's say you want to upgrade your units and you don't want to have to worry about reinstalling this entire mount. Let's say you want to get a newer unit or you want to change out some cords. All you got to do is take out these 4 screws right there with those permanent golden nuts, and this thing will hinge right open, giving you access to all of your cords down underneath the bow plate. Absolutely genius idea here, and it's going to be very, very useful for anyone who uses this. The other thing that this gives you the ability to do is through bolt your bow mount after it comes from the factory. So really the only way that you'd reasonably be able to through bolt a bow mount is at the factory when they don't have the boat all put together and they have access underneath the panel here. But really the only other way you'd maybe be able to do it is by removing the whole trolling motor tray, but still most boats have fiberglass under there, so it wouldn't even be possible. So this is the only thing on the market that's going to give you the ability to get underneath your bow mount and give you access to your cords under there without having to take everything apart. What we're going to do now is drill those pilot holes a little bit wider to be able to fit those bolts through to through bolt it. Like I said, I've decided to through bolt this just because we get some rough weather out here. I want to make sure this thing's rock solid on here and won't go anywhere. The nice thing, like I said, it's the only thing out there that's going to give you the ability to through bolt your graph since it has that opening ability. All right, guys, so the camera cut off halfway through, but as you can see, got all 6 bolts in there, and they're all through bolted with the nuts up underneath, so this thing is absolutely not going to go anywhere. Nice thing that Bass Boat Technologies does as well is send you these black little caps that actually clip and go and cover those screws, so you don't have any of those ugly screws sticking out, so it's nice and pleasing to look at. So next step, pretty self-explanatory. Go ahead and put your gimbal bracket on the actual bow mount where you want it, or where the holes line up. And so now all we have to do are put the screws back on this hood part, screw everything down tight, pull the wires through, hook our unit up, and we'll be good to go. All right, we've got everything mounted up here. Put those 4 bolts back in place that hold this hood down in position. Check that out, pretty dang slick, guys. So we're gonna go ahead and put the Garmin unit on here, do a quick function test, and see what we're working with. Well, guys, if you ask me, the BBT Hood bow mount is the best option for your bass boat, for your bow mounted graphs. So pretty cool setup, guys. You can take a look at it here. Brings it a nice distance up off the deck, probably a little less than a foot, but not too much to the point where it's obnoxious or it's going to cause too much resistance up there with the wind. And you can see we've also got that reinforced 1/4 inch thick gimbal bracket here made from aircraft grade aluminum. So that's also way better than these old factory not even probably a 16-inch thick gimbal bracket. So nice beefy gimbal bracket on there. There's the bow mount for you guys. Super clean setup and very easy to install. Aside from, you know, having to relocate the black box, which really wasn't that hard either. Aside from doing that, which took 20 or 30 minutes to do all that stuff. Overall, if I had to say how long it took to do this whole thing, probably an hour, maybe a little more. And that's if you're doing it meticulously, right? If you're doing it fast, you could probably get it done in under an hour. So really cool setup here, guys. If you want to check out any of the BBT mounts like this one or the one that you see here at the console, they're dual console graphs. They have single console graph mounts, anything like that. If you want to check any of it out, guys, I'm going to leave the link to Bass Boat Tech's website right in the description, very first thing in the description, so you guys can check them out and buy them for yourself. They make mounts for almost every boat that exists in the last 25 or 30 years. So really cool stuff, guys. Once again, big thanks to Bass Boat Technologies for sending us this stuff to use for the YouTube videos, the guide business, tournaments, all that good stuff. So check them out, guys, bassboattechnology.com. My name's Noah Sanford. We'll see you guys out on the water.